cloud. Okay, now we are recording and we are live on Facebook. Let me make sure that that is muted. Okay, now we're back. So I have just introduced Catriona McPherson. I will give the brief overview because I want to do this for Facebook as well as our recording. Born in Scotland, immigrated to the US, writes preposterous 1930s detective novels set in the old country featuring aristocratic sleuths, modern comedies set in a last-ditch motel, and fictional, right, maybe not, California. These are the ones that she writes during NaNoWriMo, and darker than both of those, which is not difficult, are her strand of contemporary psychological thrillers. Her books have been shortlisted for Edgar Anthony, Agatha, Lefty, McCavity, Mary Higgins Clark Award, the UK Ellery Queen Dagger. She has just introduced a fresh character in her new novel, In Place of Fear, which finally marries her love of historicals with her own working class roots. Catriona.
Thank you, Laurie. You said it again faster. Thank you.
But no, everyone who's in Facebook land had not heard me the first time, so we're starting over there. Gigi Pandian is also here with us, and we're thrilled. She is a USA Today bestselling author, breast cancer survivor, and accidental almost vegan. She writes The Secret Staircase Mysteries, which in the New York Times book review are called wildly entertaining, Accidental Alchemist Mysteries, and the Jaya Jones Treasure Hunt Mysteries. She has won Agatha, Anthony, Lefty, Derringer Awards, and was a finalist for the Edgar Award this year. She lives in Northern California with her husband and a gargoyle who watches over the backyard garden. Gigi has served on the board of NorCal chapter of Mystery Writers of America and the National Board of Sisters in Crime, and she's celebrating 10 years as a published author this year, which she credits in large part to NaNoWriMo. So thank you for being here. And our third panelist is Michelle Chouinard. Chouinard is the USA Today and Publishers Weekly bestselling author behind The Vacation, a standalone psychological thriller, and the Detective Joe Fournier series, which are fabulous. Most recently featuring Her Silent Prayer. The next in her series, What They Say, will be released November the 16th, 2022. She loves animals, coffee, amateur genealogy, anything to do with Halloween, serial killers, or the zombie apocalypse. So thank you for joining us here tonight, all of you. I'm Laurie Sheehan. I'm on the board of Mystery Writers of America NorCal. I handle events with Michelle Chouinard, who is my co-chair. So thank you for that as well. So I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to start with Gigi, because I know that Gigi has this love for National Novel Writing Month. So I want to just start with talking about NaNoWriMo in general. Gigi, what is it?
So National Novel Writing Month began in 1999. It was just a small group of friends in the San Francisco Bay Area, Chris Beatty, and I think about a dozen of his friends. They said to each other, we've always wanted to write a novel someday. There's never a good time in life. So let's just challenge each other to write a draft of a novel in a month. And that first year, I think it happened over the summer. It moved to November the second year, but they really it was a small group challenge. And then the following year, it grew to several dozen people. And then it kind of exploded after that, because it is really this interesting, unique way of looking at something that so many people say, oh, I'd love to write a novel someday, but we never take the time to do it because there isn't really enough time in life with everything going on. So the National Novel Writing Month challenge is to write a draft of a 50,000 word novel in 1 month. That does not mean it has to be good. It does not mean you have to show it to anybody, but just to actually get that done. And the reason that I love it so much is because that is the only reason I finished my first novel, Artifact, was because I had been playing as a hobbyist for so many years. It was just so fun, but I never would have done anything with it because I never reached the end of anything at all until I discovered NaNoWriMo. It was around 2005. And I was so thrilled to have discovered something that gave me a deadline, because before you're a published author, you don't have a deadline. And so you can, take forever. But I was so thrilled to discover it that I actually reached the end, that was the start of actually doing anything with my writing. So I owe everything to National Novel Writing Month.
Nice. So that is a great lead in for another question that I have for you, for all of you actually. why do you participate in National Novel Writing Month, and why should others consider doing the same? So Gigi gave a little overview. Catriona, do you want to take that? And then
Yeah, very different for me. So I started writing part time in 2000, I think. Yes, and I've been writing full time since 2005. And I didn't start I'd heard of NaNoWriMo, but one of my brothers-in-law wrote 50,000 words, and I read it first draft a few years ago. Sorry, Brian, if you're on Facebook, but I didn't start NaNoWriMo until 2020. So, like, cast your mind back to 2020, because I knew that it was a community, and I knew that there was camaraderie and support, and 2020 meant that there was nothing else. There was no coffee shops at that point. Still pre-vaccine, there were no getting together with writers. There was no going off here, there, and everywhere. And so I thought I was the least likely person to ever do NaNoWriMo, because I'm so furtive about my writing. I don't talk about it. I don't tell anyone anything about it, and I don't read it. I don't give it to anyone else to read. I've never been in a critique group. I don't have beta readers, and I'm such a control freak. But there was something about just knowing that, we'd all been home since March by then, right? By November. So there was something about knowing that there were other people out there who get in touch with them. And I did it. I did it in November 2020, and it worked. So I did it again in 21, and it worked. So, and those two books well, the first one is published. The one that I wrote in 2021 comes out on the 6th of December. So I'd be an idiot not to do it again. So I'm doing it again.
And we're happy you are. So can I just, before we go, I want to hear why Michelle does this too, because she's also been a nanoer for quite a long time. But so as you said, you're furtive, you don't like to share things. So it is necessary, not necessary, but it is, people post titles of what they're working on. Catriona, your three, 2020, 2021, and 2022 are all very similar. Will you share what those are?
Yes. So I was willing to share that in 2020, I was going to write the first 5/8 of my book. And in 2021, I wrote the first 5/8 of my next book. And 2022 is the first 5/8 of my new book. And that's it. But it's good. It means that you don't have to be exposed. You can be as tucked up as a swaddled baby. Because some babies just love lying around after the bath, waving their limbs, and some babies really freak out. I'm a swaddle baby. So I just nothing. Nobody gets anything.
So that's actually perfect, because that we'll probably come back to that if I remember. So Michelle, could you give us a little bit of the behind Michelle Chouinard story about why you nano?
My story is actually fairly similar to Gigi's, because I was working full-time. I was a professor. My first year, I started in 2012. So I think I'm the newest newcomer of all of you to NaNoWriMo. And so since I had an 80-hour-a-week job at that point, the ability to do anything for my writing, it was like this time that I got to steal for myself. And NaNoWriMo made it feel even more special and fun. Like I was doing something kind of naughty in the wee hours of the night, writing on my novel. And that first year, I only did about 25,000 words. I didn't quote unquote win, but it taught me a lot of important things. And I guess I have these great associations with it. And so it always feels like this little bit of time that I get to feel for myself and just be very selfish about my writing.
Okay,
And that's it.
Great. Hold on one moment. Okay, so I have another question for you. NaNoWriMo, as Catriona mentioned, is very cooperative. People get to interact if they want to. They don't have to if they don't want to, but there are things that you can do. So in the immortal words of Mel Brooks' movie, I think, we don't need no stinking badges, or do we? You guys do NaNoWriMo. Do you go in and collect those little badges? Like, are you Nano Rebels, or are you a plotter or a pantser or a planter, or do you collect those little things and interact with NaNoWriMo, the website itself?
I do. I collect those badges. Yeah, I do. And I don't write every day. I like to have a couple of, I take one day off a week, but I'm really tempted to just write 10 words on my day off so that I can say I've written every day. So I get every single badge. I'm just such a swot, I mean, what is that? It's not an American word. What's the American word for swot? Like someone that sits in the front row of the class and goes, I know, I know.
Hermione? Oh,
Yes, yes, there you
Teacher's
go.
pet.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I do.
I, I'm the
What
same.
Michelle said. Sorry, I was going to say what Michelle said. I was in a, well, I'll talk about this later, what I was doing on Monday with NaNoWriMo, because it's fantastic what you can get from NaNoWriMo, even when it's not NaNoWriMo. And asked two people, why do you do it? And got these two perfect answers. Someone said, I do it to make myself accountable because I hate writing. And the other person I asked said, you know, I do it because I love writing, but I feel that it's a bit selfish to take all the time when I've got so much else to do. So it was two completely different reasons for doing it, to make myself so that I have to and so that I get to. So it can be whatever you want, really, I think.
Yeah. Michelle, are you an interactor with the website? Do you go in and join?
Yes, I'm the kind of person that I make to-do lists so that I can check things off. So checking off badges and checking those word counts, and the NaNoWriMo site has this feature where it tells you how many words per day you have to write in order to finish on time. And I love watching that go down every day. So 1667 is not my goal for the day. I want to get more so that I can watch that number go down. So that probably says something a little bit psychotic about me, but I just absolutely love that. And that puts these goals in place where I'll write for just 5 more minutes so that I can get that number down a little bit lower. So.
And Gigi, how about you?
And I'll exemplify Catriona's point in that I'm going to give the exact opposite answer. I need the NaNoWriMo energy out there, but the website, like I don't feel like it's just another thing to think about to go in there and record my words, but I'm totally old school. Like I love like NaNoWriMo pride. Like, okay, so here's one of my many NaNoWriMo mugs that I've got here. And I have so many like NaNoWriMo stickers on my computers, and I have like all the Nano swag because it just like reminds me for me, but I don't like to, I also feel like the website is a thing where you can join all these groups if you need it, which I used a lot when I was a younger writer and didn't have as much of a built-in writing community. That was like so great to be able to go into those forums there and connect with people, like just see like the little pep talks and things like that. But right now, I feel like at the stage I'm at in my career, I love NaNoWriMo every bit as much, but I use it differently. And so I've used it differently over the years. And so I found a community online with NaNoWriMo people relatively early in my writing career. And that was really something that I could track there and interact there and get a lot out of the pep talks. But now it's much more of, I love just because I have such a fond association of it, because it had done so much to me and helped me so much when I was just getting started writing, just all of these things. Like I use this NaNoWriMo mug all the time, and it just looking at it, it just makes me smile and it just makes me happy. Like having that memory of, yes, I can do this. I remember like how far I've come, and it's just like a nice thing. And I always have coffee at my elbow when I'm writing. So it just, I don't need to go to the website anymore to feel that energy of NaNoWriMo happening. And I was always also, I used to go to lots of in-person NaNoWriMo events when that was more of a thing, which I hope will be again one day. Yeah, so I like that the website is there for people, but personally, I don't even remember. I did Nano last year. I don't even remember if I logged into the website.
Oh, mute.
I was going to say, I feel so uncool and not for the first time. So Gigi, here's a flying guess. Do you ever do a to-do list with things you've already done so you can cross them off as soon as you write?
Oh my God, I totally do.
Oh,
that.
you do?
I
do that. Yeah, you do that.
I do. But only on paper though, not
Yes.
on the computer.
Oh yeah.
On paper. Yeah, paper.
Yeah.
Totally paper.
Oh yeah, there's mine. That's my week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scraps of paper everywhere. So Gigi,
Yeah.
has something else that's going to lead me to my next question. So one of the things that the website does ask you, or they're kind of, it'll brand you, right, as a writer. So as Gigi mentioned before, this all started, Chris Beatty and his friends, they started with 0 words. and then they wrote 50,000 words. So that's an old school Rimo. Start with 0 words. A nano rebel is someone who will work on anything but a new project. Like, are you going to edit something? Are you going to, so what do you guys do? And have you done both? Have you used it as an editing tool? Have you used it as only a new writing tool? So Gigi, you want to just go the other way this time? Let's go Gigi, Michelle, Catriona.
I'm going to stick with my old school theme here. I am old school. Nano is for the new words, because there really is something. I'm someone who loves to outline on paper, but it's really hard to get me to move to the computer because I feel like words need to be good when I'm moving from my paper notebook to the computer. But NaNoWriMo gives me an out. It's totally fine for me to be writing words on the computer. They can be crap. It doesn't matter at all. Just get them down. And so I want to start something new that can be craptastic, and it's totally fine. But that's why there actually is Camp NaNoWriMo in April and July, which those are the wild card projects that you can just use. Yeah, so you can use the, Laurie's got the mug there. So you can just use Camp NaNoWriMo for any stage of a project. And so I don't always do Camp NaNoWriMo, but if I need some extra energy on a project, I'll, like do Camp NaNoWriMo, even though, I mean, I think to myself, I'm doing it and like, I'll write it in my notebook, like Camp NaNoWriMo and do my words, but I don't even go to the website anymore. But I just there is something psychologically beneficial to having these deadlines, because now that I'm more established, I do have external deadlines for my editors, but those are so far out that they're still kind of hard to be like, oh, I have 8 months to write a book. That's so long. But if you don't actually do the work, the stages along the way to get there, then it'll be 2 weeks before a book is due and I won't have it written. So having the energy of NaNoWriMo and all of these some sort of false deadline, it still helps you get to the real deadline.
And Michelle, how about you? New works?
So far, similar. For every NaNoWriMo, I've done new words. It hasn't always, the last few years, it hasn't necessarily been a new project. So it might be a book that I already have started, but then all the words that I count towards Nano are new, written in November. So this actually might be the first year that I've revised, like Gigi was saying, during Camp Nano. This might be the first year I revise, because now I also have these external deadlines that come a little too fast and furious sometimes. So we'll see if I can talk myself into starting the next book from scratch for Nano, knowing that those revisions are pending. But that's one of the things I love about Nano. So you can do whatever it is that works for you, and it's just a tool to get your writing and move your writing forward. And so whatever you do is awesome.
Yeah, and I think we know, Catriona, you mentioned you start fresh.
Yeah,
that's how you feel.
start fresh. But I'm starting fresh with a book that's due in on the 28th of February. Oh no, but it'll be okay. And I think the reason I really went for NaNoWriMo in 2020 is these books, these particular books, the Last Ditch Motel comedies. They're set in California, and NaNoWriMo was born in California, and I'm in California, and they're ensemble comedies, so they feel like the right kind of thing to write, in a crowd. I'm not sure I could write the psychological thrillers or books set in Scotland in the 30s during NaNoWriMo. It would be such a clash of, the setting and the content. So I am not a rebel ever in any way at all. Such a rule follower. But my husband, who is a professor, is going to do Nano this year. I don't even know. I mean, you can do anything in Nano. He's just finished a sabbatical and to write a book, and has written a book except for all the words. We all know how that feels. So, and now he's back and he's teaching, and he's got people coming from, and he's got running projects and doing sniffer dogs and all that. But he's gonna use Nano to make him back, and he's going to do 50,000 words, but they've all got to be true. That's the catch. So it'll be really interesting, at least interesting in this house this November, that we're both doing it.
That will be interesting. Maybe we can get updates along the way. This will be very exciting. You can always, you know, I have a guest room here in Pacific Grove, so you can always.
Everyone heard that, right? Okay.
So that's a good lead into the next question, Catriona, because another thing that Nano wants to know is, are you a planner, or are you a pantser, or are you a plantster? Right. So they have this third category now. So do you allow yourself to plot before that starting gun goes off at midnight on the 1st of November? You know where you're going, and if so, how much do you have? So we know Neil knows where he's going because he's got everything but the words. So do you know what? I mean, you know the story because it's your next novel in a series, but do you know what's going to happen?
I know I can't plan because I'm finishing the book before. I hit 58,000 words on the book that I'm writing now, that I'm going to finish on the 28th of October. It's going to be 80,000 words long. And I worked out what it was about today, which is great and quite, I still don't know who done it and I don't know why, but I do know what it's about. So that's how much of a pantser I am. So no, I've got 2 days off before NaNoWriMo starts. They'll start the next one, but it's book 6 in a series, so I know the characters and I know the setting. I just don't know, and I know the title. I just don't know the plot at all, but probably be okay, right?
I like that. And Michelle, how about you?
With each, I started out pretty big pantser, but with each book, I get sort of to be more and more of a plotter. I'm still not. I've only outlined one book successfully, but I like to do a lot of character work and things before. Actually, I do a lot of that in October, but without letting myself write, so that by the time NaNoWriMo rolls around, I am so raring to go that the words just like start flying. So that's kind of one of my tricks on how I get ready to try to be successful.
That sounds great. To build up a head of steam. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the people that don't have sex for like 2 months before they get married, so that their wedding night will be really great.
I don't know.
Okay, that might have been
with a different kind of person than I hang out.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're in a different. One must normally go to a bowling alley to meet the people that I hang out with. Nothing against bowling. Anyway, yeah. So Gigi, how about you? How are you a plotter?
Okay, so I have really changed over the years how I write. It's more of an evolution and acknowledging that I was previously lying to myself. So I am always someone who extensively outlines because I love puzzle plot mysteries. And so there really is some intricate plotting in there. So my outline is like my security blanket, and then it has always gone out the window, and I've always been wrong about who the culprit is in all of my books. I always turn out to be wrong, but I always think I know. But my subconscious is smarter than my conscious brain because there isn't usually too much shifting around to do earlier. I just, I'm writing to my outline, but then going off. But the more books I write, the less I need the outline. I still have to kind of have a skeleton outline, but I'm much more just trusting my characters when I get into the writing and seeing where they'll take me. So even though I used to think of myself as an outliner, even though I would have to shift some things, now I really do feel like there's just like some basic beats that I have and things that I know need to happen. But then I really just leave it to my characters and trust that I understand story structure as I'm writing. And so I have Joanna Penn has, she uses the phrase discovery writer instead of plotter versus pantser. And I really like that because I feel like I do know so much about the book, but then I really am open to just discovering things along the way. And it's fine that the outline will go out the window and have to be readjusted several times. And so this NaNoWriMo, I'm actually it's going to be an experiment, and I don't actually know if it'll work. So I have thank you, Catriona, I love you. But so I have a book due. My next Secret Staircase mystery is due to my editor at the end of this month. And then
oh no, that won't work.
Well, no. So but I have space to clear my brain because I have, we're doing a week-long trip to visit family at the beginning of November. And so I'm not going to be working during that time. So I'm going to have just over 3 weeks to do NaNoWriMo this year, but I'm all in because before I was published, but after I had written my first book, I did a NaNoWriMo where I got the world's worst food poisoning about a week into NaNoWriMo. And I lost a whole week. Like, it was bad. It was terrible. I was like, it was horrible. And I didn't think, I was really sad because I had been so excited that I had discovered this thing that I could actually like, would help me with my writing. And it was so much fun and it was great. And so I thought, oh, this is terrible. I've just discovered this fun thing and this year it's a failure. I can't do it. But after losing a whole week, I regrouped and wrote what is still one of my favorite books that I've ever written. And I got that whole draft done in NaNoWriMo in only 3 weeks. So you can do it. It seriously is just the magic energy of NaNoWriMo. I'm going to try to write the next Accidental Alchemist novel, which I kind of know where it's going, but I don't have an exact outline. I am going to write I have notebook notes for it, but I don't have a real outline. I just kind of know what's happening. I'm going to do the whole draft. I've just been jotting my notes on paper. I'm going to do 3 weeks. I'm getting that draft done.
Nice.
I'm so glad to hear that because I'm doing that. I'm doing the 50,000 words of NaNoWriMo, and I've also got to write, I think, about 10 or 12 guest blogs for a book that's coming out on the 6th of December. I'm going to do it. I can do that. That's
you
fine.
Can totally do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
You totally can do it.
After you get those 1,667 words, then you can do so.
Yeah.
So I like all those answers because I do like some sort of map of where you're going, but it's no fun to travel with that person that knows absolutely every toilet that you're going to stop at on your road trip, because you can't go the quarter mile to see the giant ball of twine, right? If there's a giant ball of twine, you have to go and see it. So I like the idea of that when Gigi said, you deviate, you still know where you want to end up, but there's the circuitous path is sometimes better than that direct route. So how can you guys offer some tips for staying focused during November? Is there anything you do specifically to Catriona?
I would say don't read what you're writing, but that's just for me. If that sounds mad, just completely ignore me. What do I know? But if you don't read it, you can't edit it. You just don't read it. Just tell yourself it's genius and keep going. Because you can't second guess yourself if you don't know, and you won't remember. You write so fast, you won't remember.
Yeah. Michelle, you have any tricks?
Staying focused. I think for me, I generally have a plan of, what times in particular I'm going to make sure that I'm writing. And then life always gets in the way, but I feel like having that plan to start with keeps me knowing, exactly what I'm supposed to do. Now that I have the luxury of being able to write more, I kind of do that every day anyway. But so that's my trick to staying focused all the time, but especially during Nano, I think it's really useful.
Nice. Gigi, how about you?
Okay, so I'm going to go with 2 tips, one that is my NaNoWriMo tip and one that is my just writing all the time tip. The specific Nano tip is the words are the important thing for Nano, not that they need to be good, but the secret of it is that when you start writing really bad things, they morph into good things without you realizing it. And so you just have to get the words going. So what I will do, just to not be staring at the blank page, is to write the word perhaps, because it doesn't mean this is actually happening. Perhaps this happens. And you'll go out and delete that later, but just to tell yourself, perhaps, Becky and Tom go do this thing. And then you actually find that they go and have this really cool thing that they end up doing. So just by having that word, that's my psychological hurdle to not have, something blank on the page. There's also lots of great writing prompts that are out there. But for me, just like, since the blank page is the enemy, just write the word perhaps and go from there. It'll become something good. And then my everyday writing tip is quite similar to Michelle's, so I just do my writing first thing before going online. Like, I can't look at email, because even if you think, oh, this will be 5 minutes, it won't, it'll be 5 hours. So get your words done first thing, if at all humanly possible, because the news will be there later. Your email will be there later. It's okay. I have my phone setting so that people like my family and closest friends, it'll actually ring. Everything else will go to silent. And so I know that it's fine if my phone is in the other room, because if it's an actual emergency, it'll ring, but otherwise I can't get a notification buzz.
I can vouch for that, Gigi, because you've been nominated for awards. Like nominations have come out and everybody's woo, and it's hours till you know. And then you stroll in like the coolest person in the world and go, oh, that's good. So yeah, that's true.
Well, that's 'cause I had I was never going to be nominated for an Edgar ever. So on like Edgar Day, like this year, I was like, it's like not a day that I was going to pay attention to my phone. And that's the one, because like within Edgar, I had like a dozen text messages. So that was amazing. But yeah, no, stay offline.
That's funny. That is good. Well,
Can
yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Just a really quick one. Don't delete anything. It may feel like cheating, like if you write something, maybe you start with perhaps and you write this whole paragraph, and like Gigi said, you know you're going to delete it later, but whatever you do, don't delete it until December 1st. Sometimes it feels like cheating if you know that you're not going to keep those words. It is not. Keep those words.
I said earlier I was doing something for Nano. What day is this? Thursday. So this was Tuesday. I can't remember, Monday or Tuesday. And this was, so there's yoga and word sprints during NaNoWriMo, which I think are every Monday, which with Coach Brianna, and you don't even have to do the yoga now. Her voice is so soothing. She just has to talk about which way she's going to stand on her mat, and all tension drops out. Anyway, so this carries on all year, at least once a month through NaNoWriMo. There's half an hour of yoga. It's free, and then word sprints. So the manager of the Zoom session gives you a prompt, and I usually think, well, I've got to write my actual book, so I can't do this. I can't use this prompt. I can't do this word sprint. But more often than not, I just think, well, I'll just see if I can work it into what I'm writing, and I've hardly ever chucked it out. You know, she'll say your character meets someone from their past, or your protagonist gets lost and finds something unexpected. So I think, okay. I mean, I don't know how it would work for a plotter, but I think fair enough. And so that's what I do, and it usually is for keeps.
So I just dropped, I was going to do this at the end, but that is it's as if we planned this, right? You're just sort of feeding me. It's wonderful. I dropped a link here in our chat and also on Facebook that goes to the Nano Prep 101 page. And on that page is the calendar that has the links to join the aforementioned yoga and word sprints, and along with a few other things that they're doing.
Yeah.
As well for Preptober, which is where we are now in Preptober. So, so hammering out 50,000 words in November. Full-time writers, I think that this is not unusual for you. I have a pesky day job. So what do you do to manage real life while you're hammering out 50,000 words in 1 month? Gigi, you want to start? Do you want to? Because do you still have a real job too?
So I have a part-time job now. So that is my happy balance, because it means that I don't have to have the one thing that worried me about the idea of wanting to be a full-time writer was the pressure of it has to matter what's happening in a book, and that like getting that in my head as opposed to writing the books that I want to write. And I do think that people write the best books, you know, when we don't have, you know, those voices in our head that are, you know, like getting in our head. So, but yeah, so that's how I'm now doing. I'm writing 2 series and working part-time, but it's actually, for me, I like that I know that there's somewhere that I have to be later, because then if I can do my words first thing, the day doesn't get away from me. But so I know even if you have a full-time 9-to-5 job, you know, just like getting up a little bit earlier, it's amazing. Even if you don't have that much time, it's amazing how much you can do in like a short writing sprint, especially if you're just letting go of your inner editor. But my biggest tip is the same one that I mentioned before. If at all humanly possible, do it first thing. Because even if you think you don't have that, you do have time later, and that it's hard to do it first thing if you're not a morning person or something, life does get in the way throughout the day all the time, because that's just life. So if it's possible for you to do it first thing, I would recommend trying that.
Yeah. Michelle, how about you? tips for focus?
I have a couple, and I will do an extreme version of what Gigi just said. So one of my tricks is I'm a big lover of Halloween. And we always do something, even if it's just having, trick-or-treaters and decorating for them. So we get that done. And then literally on midnight +1 on October 31st, I start writing. And that means before I go to bed, I usually have at least 1,000 words. So when I wake up on the first day of Nano, I'm ahead of the game. And psychologically, I have found that really helps. If I can be on that roll, then I just feel like, woohoo. So I know that not everybody has the luxury of starting to write at midnight 01, but you might have the luxury of getting up an hour early before, on November 1st and writing that before you go into work or whatever. One thing that I have found invaluable is everything I cook, not everything, but most of the things I cook in October, I freeze half of it. And that gets eaten during November. And I'm blessed with a significant other that doesn't mind leftovers, and that cuts my cooking time down tremendously. And then I guess my final tip is that I always have my computer or a pad and pencil with me, because I have done so many words sitting in the doctor's office waiting room when I was only supposed to have to be there for 15 minutes, but they're running late. So now it's an hour that I'm sitting there, and I just got, half of my word count done for the day. So those are my tips.
Nice. And Catriona,
I'm laughing because I made a little list, and the first one is get up earlier, and number 4 is, if you can read it, leftovers. Leftovers. Embrace the leftovers. Do you know what I would like to ask, especially you people though, is what about Thanksgiving? What a stupid month to have NaNoWriMo in. What about the fact that there's this huge, the holiday that even Americans admit is more than 1 day long. Oh my God. Like deadbeat Europeans, I take 2 weeks off for Christmas. But nobody works on the Friday after Thanksgiving, right? So what happens with, I will answer, Laurie, but what happens with Thanksgiving?
Yeah, Gigi? Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I was just going to say, for me, I try to make it a goal to finish everything I need to finish by Thanksgiving. And I know that that's not going to work for a lot of people. But my goal is that I can go to Thanksgiving feeling really good about myself having finished.
It's really early though. It's the 24th.
Yeah, it was really awesome that year when it was like the 28th.
Yeah, was that Thanksgiving? Yeah, that was a great year all round when there was a whole Thanksgiving dinner on the table and Hanukkah. It was just like Thanksgiving dinner. Let's have a brisket. I loved that. Great. Okay, so what's the question? How to do it? So do no cleaning. Just it's a big mess for Halloween, and then it's going to be a big mess for Christmas anyway, or Thanksgiving if you decorate for Thanksgiving. Leftovers definitely. Get up early. Give up screens. Give up screen time. It won't do you any harm. And also, the trick for me is to call not. I don't know if this would work if you've got a day job as well. But call nothing else work apart from adding words to that word total. So like my blogs that I'm going to write to launch the next book in early December, that's not work, that's just busy work. Emails, just busy work. Nothing is work except adding words into that file. How would you do that if you've got a job? If you could say, this is job, but the word work is saved for those words.
Well,
So you'd have to say to yourself, I've done no work today. And that really, if shame works on you, that
job
works.
For several years of NaNoWriMoing though, and it is just a matter of like what you prioritize getting your writing. Yeah. So if I do an hour, if I were to do an hour before work, you can get like 1,000 words done in that time. So even if you normally can't write that quickly during NaNoWriMo, you absolutely can. It's just, getting words done. You're not getting good words done. I mean, a lot more of them will turn out to be good than you think, but yeah. And then like going out like on your lunch break or something, as opposed to having lunch chatting with someone for 1 month of the year, you can just, have your computer or your pad of paper and do it. And then your words are done for the day.
I once had a pedicure. It must have been why would you have a pedicure in November? It must have been when VoucherCon was really late one time. I can't remember. Anyway, and so I was typing. I had my laptop, and the woman who was doing the pedicure was not offended, but she saw it as a challenge. Like, I will make you relax so much that you can't type, and if your laptop falls into the water, so much the better win for me. And she really, really tried. It was only meant to be 25 minutes, and 45 minutes in, she's still, you know, trying to relax me so much that I stopped typing.
Next time I get a pedicure, I'm just going to take a computer with me and put it on my lap. Just
On your lap. Yeah, but you are
go
dicing with
longer.
death, because you do get quite relaxed and it can plop into the water. Yeah. I do want to say, remember Mary Higgins Clark? Young widow with 5 children and a full-time job, got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and wrote her first book. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep, it can be done.
Yeah. Well,
So-
she didn't have Twitter though, so.
But well, good call there. And were those kids old enough to do all the housework and cook?
No, they were tiny. They were tiny
Okay.
little chubby children. Yeah.
All right, so we've worked our way through getting 50,000 words on the page. We get to the end of November, you have your 50,000 words. You're not done. But what happens? What happens after NaNoWriMo? What do we do?
I'll go. There's a
You
clue
go.
in the clue in my project title, the first 5/8 of my
Right.
book. After, and I've already said I take 2 weeks off for Christmas, so there's 3 weeks left in December to get from 50,000 words to 80,000 words. So that's what I do, just keep going. So get to 50. I'll hold up my diary. I get to 50. See 50 there at the bottom, and then the next day it just says 52. What a letdown. So just keep going for 3 weeks in December, and then print it out and dance around. Just choose some disco classics and dance around. I love printing it out, because then you've got that block, and it's warm, block of paper just sitting there. It looks like a real thing. And then hit the couch for 2 weeks, and then lay into it in January and spend the next 2 months fixing it up, send it off. But that's what I do.
Nice. How about you, Gigi?
So I always let it go for a period of time. I always feel like the reason I'm never able to answer the question of how long it takes to write a book is because I write in chunks. And so I'll do a NaNoWriMo draft, but then I have to set that aside and look at it with fresh eyes. I can't read it right afterwards. So I'll give that a break and, you know, set that aside. So I usually won't look at my NaNoWriMo book again until January. I know that NaNoEdMo is a thing. So National Novel Editing Month is like a more of a casual thing that lots of people will do in December to work on their book, but I need that break and I need that distance before going back and editing.
Michelle, how about you?
I'm the same as Catriona. So my books are contracted for 85,000 words. So if I'm starting, with word 1 at the beginning, I'm only 50,000 by the end. So I will keep going usually until mid-ish December. I write at a slower pace, usually through Thanksgiving and up until Christmas. And then somewhere around mid-December, I stop and give myself a chance to enjoy the holidays and then come back and revise in January.
I love thinking about you. I'll be thinking about you at a minute past midnight. Someone else in the house is rolling up the pumpkin fairy lights, and you're bang, 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 bang. This is
That's
great.
right.
Wait, this is so interesting to me. So does that mean that the words that both of you were writing for NaNoWriMo, you're writing full details in there so you can just keep going to get to your work? So basically for me, when I get to the end of 50,000 words, that is the end of the book for that first draft. And so the final book will be about 75.
So
but I'm at the end, like I have all of my acts and beats done, but then I go out and develop things later. So it sounds like you two don't do that.
no, I write the first 5/8.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just like the chapters are the length that the chapters are going to be. Yeah.
I actually overwrite a little bit. So if I'm honest, my first drafts end up being usually between 95 and 100. And then I end up paring things down and readjusting things. And I might add in some details, but it's really, I call it a chaos draft. It's not anything that's readable by human eye.
No, me neither. And you've just reminded me that we did this mystery, what's it called? Mystery Loves Democracy auction for voter registration.
Yeah.
And I auctioned all my Dandy Gilbert books, so 15 books, plus the first 3 chapters of the one I've just started writing. The first draft, I've read it, and now the person that won the auction's read it too. And I blame Nano. I am not a furtive control freak anymore. It has disrupted my entire self. I would never have done that. I can't quite believe I did do it. Oh well.
Let's not talk
That's-
about it. You'll freak yourself out. Don't think about it.
Haven't
That's
heard
one of the
anything yet.
lessons that I learned through Nano, though, too, is how to turn off that internal editor. Because when I had first started, you know, because I wrote when I was younger, but when I started writing again, I felt like this scene has to be perfect before I can move on to the next scene. And I would still be writing that first book if I hadn't had been forced by NaNoWriMo to stop doing that.
So we know, Catriona, this will be your 3rd year. Gigi, how many nanos have you done?
I've done, I think, all but one of them for the last 16 years. So maybe I've done like 15 nanos. And so they don't, so I guess most of them have, because I've written 14 books now. So I think, oh yeah, because there was one book after my first year, there was a year that I wrote a book that was abandoned, but then I had the food poisoning year where I wrote the one ended up being my second novel, and is, I love that book so much that I wrote the first draft in 3 weeks. It took a long time to make it better, but yeah, so I'm a convert. I always nano.
Michelle, how about you? When was we talked about this a little bit. Share.
This will be my 11th, but I didn't win the first one, and I've technically won, but I feel like anybody who plays wins. That's the beautiful part of it.
Yep, I agree. So another thing that Nano will do, if you drop your words into the word cruncher, then it will give you a running word count. So I have done NaNoWriMo since 2007, and not every year. And I've won most that I've done, but not every year. But according to NaNoWriMo, I've written 727,845 words. So I have them all somewhere. These 3 lovely women who I'm sharing these moments with all know me well enough to know what that means, that I write them and then I put them over here and I go and do something else. So I'm trying to correct that. The pandemic has actually helped with that a little bit. So I have a little more focus. I'm trying to control the pesky day job now to have even more focus. So that is everything I have. Is there anything else that you guys want to share about NaNoWriMo while we're here? And if anyone out there listening, either on Facebook or in our chat here on Zoom has a question, drop it in the chat and I'll ask it. Oh, unmute. Wait, Catriona, come back. You're muted.
You know, we've only been doing Zoom for 3 years, give us a chance. What else do people here do? I mean, I only do the yoga and word sprints. I am going along on the 29th of October to a get together in my local county outside get together with the people who are doing NaNoWriMo in Yolo County. But do either of you join in with any of the other stuff that goes on?
So I can just pitch in a little something really quickly. I'm going to drop the MWA NorCal events link into the chat of our Zoom, because everyone here on Zoom with us is a member of MWA NorCal. And Gigi, it was actually, I think Gigi came up with the idea to have virtual write-ins. So we started on Saturday mornings with virtual write-ins. And then one Camp NaNoWriMo, I think we added a Monday night. And then I think for some reason we added a Wednesday night. I don't know why that was, but we're still doing those. So we meet on Saturday morning, Monday night and Wednesday night. And with only a few exceptions, I think I've hit all of them. And that forces, much like NaNoWriMo, that forces me to put my hands on that book at least 3 times a week, even if I've just worked 12 hours. I race home and I usually am scrambling to get everything together and they're all chatting. And here I come flying through the door trying to get some words written. But that's a very helpful thing, I think, is to have people who are kind to you and help prop you up when it's not always easy. So Gigi and Michelle, Gigi, what do you do? What else do you do?
I mean, in Nano, do you do any of the other stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, having that community is just so important in finding that. And I am not sure this year what I'm going to do. I mean, Nano is so great because there are so many different ways to get involved, with different online things and, so many different times, or in-person meetups and, like more outdoor things now too. And so, or just like check-ins, and people do Twitter sprints. So even if you're not getting together on camera in something, just to be checking in. So I haven't decided what I'm going to do this year, but I've done all the things at different times. And so it's nice that wherever you're at right now, with this particular NaNoWriMo, you can find whatever is most helpful for you.
And I do the MWA write-ins. There are also some Sisters in Crime write-ins, especially Sisters in Crime NorCal has 3 a day, every day except for, well, one on Sunday, none on Saturday, but every weekday. There's one at 1 p.m., one at 7 p.m., and one at 10 p.m. And I think one of our members is going to be adding some additional write-in times for during National Novel Writing Month as well. But I actually those have continued on past, I guess, when they were originally put into place. And I do those all the time. My husband works swing shift, so I tend to keep a swing shift schedule. And so when he goes off to work, I sit down with that first write-in, and that kicks off my writing for the day.
That 1 p.m. one's so fantastic because even if your day's completely got away from you, you think it doesn't matter because I can, even if I'm still faffing around with God knows what, at 1 p.m., I'll sit down and make myself start to put words into this file. Yeah.
Where you've taken off the pajama top and just put on a real top, but the bottoms are still there. That's me. So Ellen Kirschman has posted the same thing about the Sisters in Crime write-in. So I think those are good things that come out of NaNoWriMo. That those ways to trick yourself into doing just a little bit more, that tend to stick with us. So I think, Catriona, I know you and I've had this, you're very regimented with your writing. Regimented. You write a lot. And
There you go. Yeah.
So
I know it's like a garden. There's box hedging, and inside is a profusion. So my writing process is chaos, but the actual timetable of writing is quite strict. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't just call my own writing a garden, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Gigi or Michelle, any last parting, or any of you, and parting words? So I am going to say thank you for joining us here tonight. Nobody go anywhere. Thanks so much. So thanks, Claire. Claire is the president of MWA NorCal, and she would like to thank the panel. And MWA NorCal is great. I dropped the events page for MWA NorCal into the chat on Zoom. So anybody who's here, please share that with other members, get people to join. We do fun things. I am going to stop going live stream, and then I am going to stop recording.